On this channel, we've talked about legends, bodybuilders who earned their place in history through blood, sweat, and iron. Sure, they used steroids, but they also spent countless hours in the gym, pushing their limits, lifting insane weights, and sculpting their bodies through pure dedication. But today's story is different. Today, we're diving into the dark side of bodybuilding, a world where shortcuts replace hard work, where needles replace dumbbells, and where the pursuit of instant muscles leads to a nightmare you won't believe. We're talking about synthol, a substance that some people inject directly into their muscles to inflate them like balloons, without ever stepping foot in a gym. No lifting, no training, just injection after injection. And what happens when you try to cheat nature? Disaster. These are the stories of men who wanted to look like bodybuilders overnight, but instead became walking cautionary tales. Their arms ballooned to grotesque sizes, their bodies became deformed, and some paid the ultimate price. So buckle up, because what you're about to see is shocking, disturbing, and absolutely real. Let's meet the bodybuilders with fake muscles who destroyed themselves with synthol. Anastasia Pokraschuk, the woman with the world's biggest cheeks. Now you might be thinking, she's not a bodybuilder, but what Anastasia did to her face is exactly what synthol abusers do to their muscles. Same obsession, same injections, same disaster. Meet Anastasia Pokraschuk, a 36-year-old from Kiev, Ukraine, known for having the world's biggest cheeks. Nearly 10 years ago, she looked completely normal, actually quite attractive, but she became obsessed with changing her appearance. She spent over 1,600 pounds on facial fillers injected into her cheeks and jaw, plus a boob job, Brazilian butt lift, and Botox. The result? Her face became so swollen and distorted, she's unrecognizable. When trolls say nobody would find her attractive, she fires back, "I don't care what others say. This is my face and my life." In an interview, she admitted, "I look at my old pictures and think I'm ugly. I look like a hamster." So she injected her face until her cheeks ballooned massively. Her story is the perfect introduction to what's coming next. The same dangerous mentality that leads bodybuilders to inject synthol, believing they can shortcut their way to their ideal body. And trust me, the bodybuilders you're about to meet took this obsession to even more terrifying extremes. Kirill Tereshin, the Russian Popeye who nearly lost his arms. Meet Kirill Tereshin, a 29-year-old Russian man who became known as Bazooka and Russian Popeye for one shocking reason: his grotesquely oversized arms. After leaving the army, Kirill wanted massive arms fast, so he injected nearly 3 liters of petroleum jelly and synthol into each arm. Within just 10 days, his arms grew 10 inches, but there was zero muscle, just oil and jelly bloating his limbs. His arms turned purple and started dying. The injections blocked blood flow, killing the muscle tissue from the inside. Abscesses formed, and doctors warned him, "You'll either lose your arms or lose your life." Kirill had a high fever, severe pain, and weakness as the dead tissue poisoned his body. To make things worse, he also injected a homemade mixture to make his arms look even bigger, which did absolutely nothing for strength but accelerated the damage. In 2019, doctors removed 3 pounds of dead muscle from his biceps in emergency surgery. Petroleum jelly saturated the muscle tissues and blocked blood flow. It affects the whole body, especially the kidneys, his doctor explained. But the nightmare wasn't over. Kirill needed multiple surgeries, and doctors are now racing to perform skin grafts before amputation becomes inevitable. His arms are wrapped in bandages as they fight to save what's left. This is what happens when you want Popeye's arms without eating your spinach. Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. Synthol Rambo, the Brazilian with melting arms. This one is disturbing on a whole different level. Meet Synthol Rambo, a Brazilian man who went viral for all the wrong reasons. His arms literally look like they're melting off his body. Rambo wanted to look like an action hero for his social media followers, so he pumped massive amounts of synthol into his biceps and triceps. But here's the problem. Synthol doesn't build real muscle. It's just oil sitting under your skin. And what happens to oil when gravity takes over? It droops. His arms became so saturated with synthol that the oil started sagging over his elbows like melted wax. The images are shocking. His biceps and triceps look deformed, droopy, and completely unnatural. They hang off his frame like deflated balloons. Experts who've seen his photos believe his muscles have already undergone severe trauma. The tissue is likely infected, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of oil that's been injected. Blood flow is compromised, and the risk of stroke, nerve damage, pulmonary embolisms, cysts, and ulcers is sky high. But Synthol Rambo continues posting on social media, flexing his grotesque arms for his followers, seemingly unaware or unwilling to accept the irreversible damage he's done to his body. His arms aren't just fake, they're dying, and soon they might be gone completely. Juliana Juju Dupix Oliveira, the face that was destroyed by oil. If you think the previous cases were bad, wait until you see what happened to Juliana Oliveira, a Brazilian transgender influencer known as Juju Dupix. Juliana wanted to feminize her face, so she went to an illegal clinic in Brazil. What happened next is pure horror. The doctor injected 21 syringes of mineral oil mixed with laxative directly into her face. Yes, you heard that right, laxative. Into her face. The result? Her facial structure became completely deformed. Her face swelled beyond recognition, hardened, and became grotesque. The oil didn't dissolve, it just sat there, solidifying under her skin, turning her tissue rock hard. Recently, she underwent reconstructive surgery at Hospital Indianapolis in São Paulo. Doctors attempted to remove the oil and perform maximum skin removal, but the damage was so severe that her tissue had already hardened permanently. The surgery was free, funded by her team in the hospital, and Juliana has been documenting her painful recovery on social media, with over 46,000 followers watching her journey. Her face is a warning, a terrifying reminder that illegal injections don't just ruin bodies, they destroy lives. Arlindo de Souza, the mountain who couldn't stop. Meet Arlindo de Souza from Brazil, a man who knew the dangers of synthol but injected it anyway because he wanted the biggest arms in the country. And he got them, 29-inch monsters that earned him the nickname The Mountain in his hometown of Olinda. But here's the thing, the rest of his body was completely average. Only his traps and arms were enormous, making him look like a cartoon character. His muscles were deformed, unnaturally shaped, and completely disproportionate. Arlindo was already taking a dangerous cocktail of hormones, steroids, and horse vitamins when a gym friend introduced him to synthol. He became instantly addicted. The oil bulked up his muscles so fast he couldn't stop injecting. But his strength, it never increased. He maintained the same workout regimen, lifting the same weights, because synthol doesn't build real muscle. It's just oil. Then reality hit hard. His friends started developing infections. Some had to get their limbs amputated. One of his closest friends, Paulinho, died from complications. That's when Arlindo finally stopped. He admitted he doesn't recommend synthol to anyone, but here's the terrifying part. He confessed that the temptation to inject more oil is always there. Maintaining control is a constant battle. Even after seeing his friend die, the addiction still haunts him. Romario dos Santos Alves, the man who wanted to be the Hulk. This is Romario dos Santos Alves, a Brazilian bodybuilder who loved the Hulk so much, he tried to become him. In 2012, after moving to Goiânia, Brazil, Romario's gym friends introduced him to synthol. He became obsessed, injecting constantly until his arms ballooned to 25 inches in circumference. But they weren't muscles. They were filled with rock-hard cysts. His arms became so hard that regular needles couldn't penetrate them anymore. So what did Romario do? He bought the strongest needles on the market, the kind used to inject bulls. Yes, bull needles, into his own arms. His wife begged him to stop. She gave him an ultimatum. It's either me and our baby or the synthol. Romario spiraled into severe depression. When his wife was 6 months pregnant, he attempted to take his own life. He was hospitalized and removed from his job. That's when he finally realized the synthol was killing him. He was in constant pain. His kidneys were failing. Doctors told him the only solution was amputation. But miraculously, surgeons managed to remove the rock-hard cysts from his arms without cutting them off. He kept his limbs, but barely. Romario survived, but his body and his mind will never be the same, all because he wanted to look like a superhero. Mustafa Ismail, the Egyptian Popeye, with 31-inch arms. Meet Mustafa Ismail, the Massachusetts-based bodybuilder who once held the Guinness World Record for the largest arm circumference in the world, a mind-blowing 31 inches. To put that in perspective, his arms were bigger than most people's waists. But here's where things get controversial. Guinness eventually stopped accepting claims for arm size because they couldn't distinguish between real muscle and synthol-injected freaks. And according to fitness experts, Mustafa was absolutely in the synthol category. He became known as the Egyptian Popeye and swore his massive arms were the result of intense training, high food intake, and drinking gallons of water daily. But nobody believed him. Why? Because the rest of his body was completely average. His torso, legs, shoulders, all normal-sized. Only his arms were grotesquely oversized, which is the classic giveaway of synthol abuse. Real bodybuilders develop proportionally. Synthol users, their arms look like they belong to a different person. Experts warned that the extreme level of synthol Mustafa was using would undoubtedly cause severe health complications in the long run. But like so many others, he became addicted, not just to the injections, but to the attention and fame his freakish arms brought him. Once you hold a world record, the pressure to maintain it becomes overwhelming, and that pressure can be deadly. Valdir Salgado, the real-life Hulk who couldn't stop this, is Valdir Salgado, a Brazilian bodybuilder who became known as the real-life Hulk. But his story is more tragedy than triumph. As a young man, Valdir was a drug addict who became dangerously skinny. People cruelly called him Skinny Dog, and the nickname haunted him. He vowed to get big. He quit drugs and hit the gym, but real muscle takes years. Synthol? That takes minutes. Valdir became addicted. He injected synthol into his chest arms, shoulders, and back throughout his 40s and into his 50s. He went from 120 pounds to 177 pounds, but most of that weight was oil, not muscle. His arms measured 23 inches, but they barely clung to his bones. His muscles were so swollen and deformed that he looked like a cartoon character. Doctors warned him repeatedly, "Stop now or you'll face irreparable nerve damage and amputation." But Valdir didn't care. He was addicted, not just to synthol, but to the attention. He embraced his reputation as a monster on the streets of São Paulo and even called himself Valdir Synthol on social media. He loved being recognized. He loved the fame, and he was willing to die for it. Valdir's case shows the dark psychology behind synthol abuse. It's not just about looking big. It's about the attention, the identity, and the addiction that becomes impossible to break. Luis Carlos, Hulk de Cajazeras, the egg-eating monster meat. Luis Carlos Jesus, better known as Hulk de Cajazeras from Salvador, Brazil, a man whose body has been destroyed by synthol abuse. His biceps are enormous, his shoulders look like they're about to explode, and disturbingly, he's developed breast tissue that looks like female implants, a horrifying side effect of the toxic cocktail he's injected into his body. Luis claims he's been working out for 30 years and eats 30 eggs a day to maintain his physique. Similar to fitness influencer Gracianne Barbosa, who eats 40. His diet, he says, is based on carbohydrates, chicken, eggs, and couscous. But here's the truth. No amount of eggs can build muscles like that. His body is clearly the result of excessive synthol and possibly other dangerous substances. His proportions are completely unnatural. His biceps and shoulders are swollen beyond belief, while the rest of his frame struggles to support the weight. The breast tissue development is particularly alarming. It's a sign of severe hormonal imbalance caused by years of injecting foreign substances into his body. Despite his monstrous appearance, Luis embraces his nickname, Hulk, and even showed off his dance moves to pagode music during an interview, seemingly unaware or in denial about the irreversible damage he's done to himself. His body is a ticking time bomb, and the question isn't if complications will come, it's when. So there you have it, some of the most shocking and disturbing cases of synthol abuse and dangerous cosmetic injections in the world. These people wanted instant results. They wanted to look like superheroes, bodybuilders, and models without putting in the work. But instead of achieving their dreams, they destroyed their bodies, ruined their health, and some even came close to losing their lives. And honestly, this list could go on and on. There are countless more people out there who've made the same catastrophic mistake, injecting oil, jelly, and God knows what else into their bodies, thinking they found a shortcut to perfection. But there are no shortcuts, only consequences. If this video taught you anything, let it be this. Real muscle is earned in the gym, not bought in a syringe. And no amount of attention, fame, or Instagram followers is worth losing your arms, your face, or your life. If you found this video eye-opening, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the dark side of fitness and body modification. Stay safe out there, and remember, your health is worth more than any viral moment.